Hey guys, welcome back. It seems like the AI race is heating up once again, with OpenAI releasing their new ChatGPT 4.0 model, which was shown to be flirting with one of their researchers.
And in fact, what if I were to say that you're related to the announcement, or that you are the announcement?
Me? The announcement is about me?
And also doing real-time translation.
Hola, bien. Sí, un poco ocupado aquí preparando un evento para la semana que viene.
Hey, I've been good. Just a bit busy here preparing for an event next week.
That caused Duolingo's share price to drop massively overnight. Meanwhile, Google wasn't to be outdone, announcing a whole host of AI features at its I/O conference last week. But meanwhile, all of these companies from Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and Meta are facing huge criticism from investors because of the amount of money that they're plowing into AI with no real returns, it seems like. You also have hype merchants like Jensen Huang, the CEO of Nvidia, hyping up the future of AI and what it might accomplish.
How do we build software in the future? It is unlikely that you'll write it from scratch or write a whole bunch of Python code or anything like that. It is very likely that you assemble a team of AIs.
Meanwhile, the reality of AI products on the market currently couldn't be any further from the truth.
A lot of these tech companies are developing tech kind of backwards. Like they're delivering such unfinished products that it actually makes them nearly impossible to review.
And critics say there are issues with AI that are basically unsolvable, like data hallucination, that prevent some of these use cases even being possible. As investors, I think it's important to have sober conversations about AI, ignoring the hype and focusing on what kind of benefits that AI can bring to the bottom lines of the companies that are developing it. So in this video today, I want to talk about some of the problems that AI is facing, how it is going to become profitable, and what happens to the companies that are developing it if it just turns out to be an endless, bottomless money pit that provides no returns. Let's start off with the problem of data hallucination. Now, if you don't know what that is, it's effectively when an AI gives you false or just plain wrong information about a topic that you've asked it to give you information on. Kind of like if you have failed to do your history homework and your teacher asks you a question about when World War II started, you reply in the 1980s, but with such confidence that the teacher actually believes you. That's the exact same thing that the chatbot is effectively doing, and it's getting a lot of people in hot water. From lawyers getting burned by the fact that their ChatGPT research had made up sources and court cases to use, to Air Canada having an AI chatbot that basically told customers wrong information about their bereavement policies, causing them to get sued and lose a lot of money, to journalists and public figures having to sue OpenAI and other AI companies for basically publishing wrong information about them when asked about that public figure. Companies that have used AI to make their processes more efficient or streamlined have a lot to lose if data hallucination is giving them legal ramifications, and if a process isn't 100% reliable, or at least 99.9% reliable, then those companies will just not use it in the first place. ChatGPT, Grok, Bard, Gemini, they're all examples of large language models. And data hallucination is a feature, not a bug, of large language models. That's exactly why they're called that and not large reasoning models. They don't have the capacity to reason and tell whether what they're saying is correct or wrong, and that makes them unreliable by nature. A lot has been made of the ability for AIs to replace humans in certain jobs and industries, and none more so than the movie industry, where some human film directors have actually cancelled plans to build their own film studios because they were so impressed with what Sora, OpenAI's latest video model, actually managed to generate when just given text prompts. A recent video or short film by Sora collaborating with a Canadian film studio was quite interesting to watch.
Well, they say everyone has something unique about them, something that sets them apart. It's just in my case, it's quite obvious what that thing is. I am literally filled with hot air. Yeah, living like this has its challenges, Windy days, for one, are particularly troublesome. Or there was the one time my girlfriend insisted I go to the cactus store to get my Uncle Jerry a wedding present. Ugh.
Now that does look really impressive at first glance. I'm not gonna lie, when I first saw it, I was like, wow, movies actually could be replaced by this. But in reality, when you look at the behind the scenes, it's far less impressive, sadly so.
How do you maintain a character and look consistent, even though Sora is very much a slot machine as to what you get back?
And it's not as easy as just a magic trick, type something in and get exactly what you're hoping for.
The director of the movie, Mike Seymour, did an interview with a magazine where he basically described the process of getting everything together. Not only did it take 10 to 20 minutes to generate a 3-second clip, the main issue was that the producer had no idea what was going to be created until it was actually created. And that led to a number of data hallucinations where Sora would create a random face on the balloons. Sora was also unable to contextualize the actual videos so that they matched up to previous videos that it had created, even though lots of context was provided in the text prompts. And that can cause huge issues. Just think about it. This was a very simple video in terms of contextualization because it was just a man with a balloon for a head. Imagine if you were watching a film where the lead actor's face kept changing either slightly or greatly every 3 seconds. It would be massively grating and jarring, and you probably wouldn't be able to watch the film. So you might be thinking now, well, the best way to deal with data hallucination is to feed these LLMs more data and better quality data at that, and that will help them to learn to not give data hallucinations in their results. And you'd probably be right, that would improve their results somewhat. But the main problem now is that all of these AI companies have been through every single piece of publicly available data on the internet. And they've even allegedly and are being sued for taking data from places that they shouldn't behind licensing contracts and paywalls. For example, the New York Times is suing OpenAI for effectively ripping off its articles. And the way that it figured it out is by prompting ChatGPT using lines from their articles to basically finish the article, and ChatGPT went ahead and finished the article for them. Some AI researchers have estimated that GPT-5 will require 5 times as much information and data as GPT-4 in order to significantly improve its performance. And that's why companies like OpenAI and Google have agreed licensing deals with media publishing groups, and just recently Reddit as well, where they're going to be using Reddit user-generated content in order to train their LLMs and improve their performance. But that raises me onto another point. What if people are posting on Reddit as bots? What if the actual content that the LLMs are training off was generated by other LLMs? That can't be good, right? We've known for a long time that increasingly on the internet, a lot of user-generated content is actually generated by bots. And with the proliferation of AI and LLMs, it's become increasingly easier and easier for people to effectively write lifelike bots and write comments from bots that are effectively indistinguishable from the norm. So what happens when LLMs are actually using other LLM data to actually train themselves? Well, it's not good. Studies have shown that the quality of LLM responses when they're trained on other LLM data gets progressively worse as each generation goes on. Some have deemed it to be effectively the Habsburgization of LLM content, and that's referring to the progressive inbreeding in the Habsburg royal family in Austria and otherwise, which led to each generation of monarchs becoming more and more disfigured and deformed due to the effects of inbreeding. Now the exact same thing could potentially happen with AI. So what does this mean for making generative AI profitable, and what does it mean for the companies that are trying to do so? Well, the amount of money being spent on CapEx for data centers and GPUs right now is absolutely insane. Sam Altman and OpenAI went viral recently for stating that they wanted $100 billion from Microsoft in order to build a artificial superintelligence. Now that reminds me a little bit of when Trump said, let's build the wall and we'll get Mexico to pay for it. OpenAI is effectively saying, let's build a superintelligence and we'll get Microsoft to pay for it. So I'm not sure what to make of that. But it looks like the only company that is actually going to make any money out of this at the moment is Nvidia. And were OpenAI to build a 100 billion data center, they would probably be the biggest company in the world by far. Personally, I think that AI companies need to be honest with investors and the general public about the capabilities and limitations of generative AI, especially when it comes to data hallucination and the data quality ingestion problem that they're also facing. These AIs may never be capable of doing some of the things that Jensen Huang has promised, like effectively replacing human workers in a team to produce a project. But I don't blame him for mentioning things like that, because his entire company's reason for having a massive market cap right now is because of the hype. But I do think that companies like Meta and Google need to lean into parts of their business which aren't disadvantaged by problems like data hallucination. For example, the language translation aspect of LLMs is brilliant. I don't think it really matters if you have 5% of your translations as wrong when two users are speaking to each other. I think that would be absolutely fine. Even 10% of errors wouldn't lead to the users having a terrible experience. You could still pretty easily understand each other. So content like that, where data hallucination isn't as important, should be the areas of business that these companies are leaning into, rather than trying to create a AGI, artificial general intelligence, which isn't necessarily possible, and especially not so without making Nvidia incredibly rich. I also think that some of the work that Meta has done with machine learning, not generative AI, has been absolutely brilliant. Their campaign to have ad targeting based on AI recommendations has improved their ad targeting by 32% compared to normal campaigns, and advertisers are extremely happy with it. So they should really lean into that machine learning part of AI rather than the generative AI, in my opinion. But overall, I do think that these companies will probably continue full steam ahead anyway. And what happens if it doesn't turn out like they expect? Well, I've said the exact same thing previously when it comes to Meta's metaverse spending, and that is, if AI is a flop, if generative AI does not become profitable and everyone stops doing it, well, that money that is currently being spent on data centers and AI GPUs doesn't just disappear, it goes into the company's bottom lines. The only company that would really be affected by this would be Nvidia, the company that's selling the shovels to the AI gold rush would basically be screwed because no one would need to buy the shovels anymore. But the companies that are actually buying the shovels would be greatly benefited because they have other means of making profits, and if a huge expense is lifted from them, then they would become incredibly profitable, even more so than they already are. Sure, those profits wouldn't immediately go into their free cash flows, as expenses are usually depreciated or spread out over the coming years, i.e. today's spending is spread out over the next 5 years or so, so it would take a while for free cash flows to recover to the levels that they should be. But overall, it wouldn't be that much of a negative. And that's why I'm not too worried about Meta and Google's AI capex spend, even though it is pretty insane at the moment. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you guys think about AI, its pitfalls, and whether it can actually be profitable in the future. I previously made a video about Google's Sundar Pichai. He's in charge of basically making Google a competitor to OpenAI when it comes to AI nowadays. But a lot of employees are not happy with how he has been doing. So if you want to hear the inside story on that, please check out my video here. If you enjoyed this video, please leave me a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.